This episode of The Inspiration Show is truly special because we're going back in time with today's guest. There's just something about that girl. I am so excited to welcome the incredibly talented Liana Hunt, who has made such an incredible impact on my life and my theater journey. Liana has graced the stage in so many beloved shows, including Mamma Mia, Wicked, Newsies, Bright Star, and most recently Back to the Future, the musical. Thank you so much for joining me, Leanna. I have so much love and admiration for you, and I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh my God, stop. That's so sweet. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I am truly happy to be here.
So, when did you discover that you had a passion for singing and theater?
Oh my gosh, honestly, pretty young, which is really kind of strange because no one else in my family does this at all. Like I don't have no one's in the arts, no one sings, no one is in theater. Um excuse me, and I also come from a pretty small town in Vermont. Um and there's just not a lot of people are interested in musical theater there. So I don't know why or how, but I kind of feel like I came out of the womb wanting to do this for some reason. I think I think when I was little, I had like an itch to perform. I loved like being, on stage. I loved like making up songs, and then I think I fell in love with Disney movies at a really young age, obviously, and would like recreate those around the house. And then when I was old enough, my mom started taking me to New York on her business trips with her and would take me to see Broadway shows. And then it was like immediate. I was like, that's what I want to do.
Oh, I love that. I relate to that so much because I mean, I've been performing for as long as I can remember. No one in my family performs, so everybody's just like, "Where'd you get that from?" And then
Literally.
people would ask me like, "Why theater?" And I'm like, honestly, like it's so cringy, but like I feel like theater like was meant for me. Like
Oh, it's
like
not cringy. That's magic. That's
yeah,
like
it's I always say theater is magic. Like it's so special. There was no reasoning for it. Like I always felt that it was my calling and I felt like the stage was
yeah.
just home.
Oh, me too. And I think that's so special. It feels like, I don't know, like a calling, truly like a
It's
calling.
the best feeling. So
Yeah.
what would you say really inspired you to become a performer and who's been an inspiration of yours throughout your career?
Oh my goodness. So many people. When I was younger, still living in Vermont, like in school, I found through community theater a community of theater people in Vermont. Because there weren't a lot of us theater kids when I feel like now there's so much more of a theater scene in Vermont, but when I was younger, I felt like we were all like searching for the theater kids. And we found each other, one of them being Shayna Taub, creator, star of Suffs, the musical on Broadway. We met when we were like 8 auditioning for Annie, and are have been very close friends ever since. But so honestly, that group of friends was huge for me, very important, very inspiring too, because as like the lone theater kid in my high school, I felt like whatever shows and music I knew about, I loved, but I felt like I was a little out of the loop. Like I got to get my hands on whatever I can. And so together we kind of shared what we loved with each other. They introduced me to new music, new musicals. Um, so honestly, those friends were and continue to be a huge source of inspiration. Um, at my high school, like my teachers, my drama teacher and music teacher recognized in me that I really had a passion for this, um and I think it was exciting for them too, because it's like, oh, a student who really loves what I teach. So they were really important in my journey. And then, gosh, teachers in college that were amazing mentors. But then also performers. Like when I was growing up, I was obsessed with Sutton Foster, obviously. I mean, she's amazing. I saw You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and I was with Roger Bart starring.
No way.
Oh, yes, me and my mom and I saw it. We fell in love with the show and specifically Roger Bart. We were like
Yeah.
huge Roger Bart stands. So on the first day of rehearsal, I was like, I'm trying to play it cool, um, but I fell in love with Christian Chenoweth, and I was just obsessed with them. And like, um, gosh, back then there like wasn't YouTube. So any chance I got to like see them perform, I was just, yeah. So I don't know, a lot of different people in my life, performers, teachers, friends, inspired me.
Oh, that's so special. And I love that full circle. The full circles in theater just they make me the happiest.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
definitely. Definitely. I was freaking out. I was like, I'm gonna be in a show on Broadway with Roger Bard? Like, huh?
I love it. Can you take us back to the first time you experienced theater and how you were feeling at the time?
Oh my God. Do I remember? Um, wow, the first time I experienced theater, I think was probably my first Broadway show I saw, which was Beauty and the Beast on Broadway. Um, yeah, magic. Talk
Yeah.
about Broadway magic. And, as a kid who loved Disney movie musicals, loved Beauty and the Beast and Belle, it was like mind blowing. I mean, I was so young, but I remember that it was life changing. It was like all the magic I feel when I watch this movie, it can come to life on this like stage in front of me and there's magic and oh my gosh, it was a game changer. I definitely like got the bug for sure. And I remember, I mean, I was so young then, but I remember one of the next Broadway shows I saw was Les Mis. And I just remember feeling I was obsessed with Eponine. And I just remember sitting in my seat being like, oh my God, I want to transport myself onto the stage. Like, what would happen if I just like ran up? I want to be there so badly.
Oh, no, I love that. Beauty and the Beast was always my favorite too, and I need you as Belle like yesterday,
Oh my
please.
God, stop.
Yeah. So you received a BFA from New York University's Tisch School of the Arts and graduated with honors a semester early to star as Sophie on the national tour of Mamma Mia. How did your studies at Tisch shape you as a performer, and what was it like graduating early to join the tour?
Oh my God. All of that was honestly so wild, but it was amazing. Um, Tish was amazing. I knew I wanted to be in New York City. I just like I wanted to go to NYU so badly. I wanted to be in the city. Like we toured a bunch of colleges that were gorgeous and have incredible programs, but something like in my soul was like, no, I have to get there. Even when I was a kid, I was like, I wish I lived in New York City. So I knew I wanted to be there. So I applied early decision and like when I found out I got in, it was like, oh my gosh. So um I mean it was amazing. I formed a group of friends that I'm still friends with, to this day and it was like theater camp but on steroids.
I love it.
Yeah, I went to Stage Door Manor theater camp and it was amazing, but it was 3 weeks out of the year. And this was like, you're 18, you're like on your own for the first time. I was in New York City, which thinking back, I'm like, oh my God, how did I survive? That's terrifying. But it was amazing. We all had each other. Classes were great. I had some really, really wonderful teachers. Oh my gosh, Mana Allen, Larry Arancio, Kate Guyton. Oh my God, some amazing teachers. And it was just a chance to like intensively study and hone our crafts for 4 years. So while living in New York City, it was amazing. I got to do some really great shows in college. I learned so much. It was hard. It was so hard. It's a liberal arts school as well, so balancing the academic studies with the conservatory training was so intense. I was probably tired all the time, but it was great and I felt really well set up. Um, Having then graduated, I felt like it was really important for me to be here in New York City for 4 years. So when I graduated, I already had like established a comfort level with the city. I had a home, I had a community, which really was great. What was the question?
And graduating early, what
Oh,
was
graduating
that like
early.
to go
Thank
out
you.
on tour?
Just blabbing along. Yes. Okay, so my senior year, I wasn't planning on graduating early. But I had taken AP classes in high school, and scored well enough on the exams to have credits for college, but I just never had looked into it or applied them. So I was planning on not graduating early. And it all sort of just fell into place in a really magical way. I had been freelancing with an agent who I met in our program at NYU junior year. He had reached out to me over the summer and we were sort of freelancing. So, fall semester of senior year, he had just started sending me on some auditions. And also around that time, I found out I needed to fulfill like a science credit for academics, and I was faced with having to take biology.
I'm
And
with you on that one.
I,
I'm so
I
with
just
you.
it was the thing that forced pushed me to be like, wait a minute, didn't I have AP credits? I gotta look into this. And sure enough, I looked into it and I had AP science credits that could transfer. And so I had it all transferred and they were like, you actually have enough credits, you can graduate in December. And it was totally separate of going on tour. I found out that I could graduate a semester early and do my showcase in January and just then be done. And, NYU is so expensive. I was like, of course I'm going to graduate a semester early. So I made that plan. My agent started sending me on auditions. And I think the second audition I went on was Mamma Mia for the national tour for Sophie. And I went in, it was a crazy experience. I had a final callback and then I didn't hear anything for like 3 weeks. So I just, moved on. And I turned in my final exam of college, like right before holiday break. And then my agents called and let me know that I booked Sophie on the national tour. And then I would like do my showcase like early January and leave for tour like a week later. It was so wild.
That's insane.
It was insane. I remember just feeling absolutely bonkers because I was like, okay, I've just graduated college early. I just did my showcase, and now I'm leaving the city, packing up my life, and going to lead a national tour for the first time in my life.
I'm not like the one that believes in like signs or like the universe being on your side, but the universe
Oh,
was on your side.
yeah.
Like,
Oh, I know. I look back and I'm like, oh my God. Like, because now I've been in the business for a long time, and I'm like,
right.
I knew it was wild, but I don't even think I understood how crazy that all was.
Yeah, like the way that it lined up perfectly too with like
Yeah.
education and like the perfect time. Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
It was amazing. And then, you know, going on tour was like a crash course. It was insane because my studies and training prepped me really well to do this job, but nothing can prep you for jumping into 8 shows a week, like as a leading role or any role, and especially being on tour. So I just kind of had to learn as I went, how to develop stamina, how to do 8 shows a week, how to conserve, how much I need to sleep. And I just sort of learned as I went. I was 21, so it was crazy, but it was an amazing experience.
The journey of a lifetime. Wow. So after an incredible run on tour with Mamma Mia, you made your Broadway debut in the show. What was
Yeah.
that transition to Broadway like, and what were your favorite memories of performing in the show?
Oh, it was the best. I was my lifelong dream had been to be on Broadway, so I wanted it so badly. I was having an amazing time on tour. I did the role for a year and a half. And then in my final weeks, they called and were like, we're going to fly you to New York to have you like audition for the team for Sophie on Broadway. And I was like, what? So I remember they flew me to New York at like 6 a.m. I was in Virginia. It was our final stop on tour. We were closing the tour, that version of it. I flew to New York at like 6 a.m., took a nap, went in to one of the studios and did all the Sophie material for all the people who I was currently working for, on tour. I read with a few different skies. Then I went back to the airport, flew to Virginia, and did the show that night. And we closed the tour, and then I hadn't heard anything for again like a month or so. So I kind of just let it go. And then all of a sudden, my agents called me. This again was really magical, serendipitous, because I was moving into my first apartment in New York City on my own after tour. And I was in the car with my parents. We were on the highway driving from all my stuff to move into my apartment, like in Washington Heights. And my agent called and he was like, "You got it. You're going to be starting on Broadway in like 2 months as Sophie." So, and he was like, "I think they knew they just wanted to audition you with some skies." And I was like, "Oh, great.
Yeah.
Nice to know." But that was so crazy because I got to celebrate with my parents in the car and we were all screaming and I
Oh.
was so excited. And it was amazing making my Broadway debut at the Winter Garden Theater where Back to the
Mhm.
Future just played. I was in Casey's dressing room.
Oh.
Yeah, it was amazing. And like tour was incredibly special and Broadway was special for different reasons. Tour, you're touring the country, you're all each other has basically, so you're like a tight-knit family and on Broadway you're living the New York City life and commuting to your Broadway show, which was it was crazy. It was amazing. I have so many favorite memories, like definitely my Broadway debut. I was at Mamma Mia for the 10-year anniversary on Broadway. So the 10-year anniversary was absolutely insane. They like built a stage outside the theater on Broadway, the Avenue, and we all performed. The whole audience went outside into the Avenue after the show and we performed the Megamix like on this stage in the street and they set off fireworks over the Winter Garden. Like it was insane. It was insane.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And definitely just all the people. Like Mamma Mia had a way of just bringing together the best people. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm excited for this one because most recently you starred as Lorraine Baines in Back to the Future the Musical at the Winter Garden Theater, the same theater where you made your Broadway debut in Mamma Mia. And in your dressing room, you had the diary prop from Honey Honey. What did that full circle experience mean to you being back at the Winter Garden where it all began?
No, it was insane. It was insane. It felt, oh God. And I love the Winter Garden Theater. It was my home for a year and a half and so special because it was the first Broadway theater I performed in. And yeah, it was insane. I was setting up my dressing room and my mother-in-law actually designed it so it was all decorated and it was beautiful but I was looking for ways to personalize it and I have a box under my bed of like all my show keepsakes, all my like memorabilia, and there's a few props from or costume pieces from every show that I still have. And I found the diary and I was like, "Oh my God, I have to bring this to my dressing room immediately." And I'm so glad I did. Every day I looked at it, it was just such a full circle, you know, reminder of where I was and how far I come and how happy I am to be back on Broadway and how special it is that I'm in this dressing room, like right above my old dressing room and I'm in a different place in my life. It really gave me all the feels every day. And like, every day when I was on stage, there would be at least one moment where I'd look out in the audience and think like, "Oh my God, 23-year-old me used to look out into the same audience every night." It just felt so special.
Oh, I'm gonna cry. Oh, that's so special.
Yeah.
And I know the blue lights at the Winter Garden before the show started, I mean, it just has a special place in my heart, those blue lights.
Yeah, totally.
So before getting cast in Back to the Future, were you familiar with the story, and what made you feel connected to it, and why did you feel compelled to be part of telling this story?
Yeah, definitely. I was born in the late 80s and my brother and I grew up watching like the VHS of Back to the Future. So it was a huge part of my millennial childhood. And we always loved the movie. It was just one of those like nostalgic staples of our childhood. It felt comforting. It felt like people we know. Those characters feel like people we all know. It's such a classic movie. It's such a good story. It's funny. It's heartwarming but I hadn't seen the movie in years. I mean, when I got the audition, I can't remember the last time I'd seen the movie. Probably not since I was a kid. Um, and so I remember I got the audition and I was out of town actually doing a different new musical at the time. And the audition came in, and I was going to have to change all my flights to go back to New York early after we closed this show in Chicago. So I kind of like, I was like, okay, let me take a look at the material. Let me rewatch the movie and just see if it still connects with me. And if I, because I hadn't seen Lorraine Baines since I was a kid, so I had no idea if it would be a fit for me now. So I watched the movie and of course immediately was like, "Oh my God. I want to play this role so badly." Like, yes, yes, it's a yes. I'm changing my flights. I loved the music. I remember feeling like, "Oh, this feels really good in my voice. This feels like a natural fit. I love singing these songs. I feel like I understand Lorraine." I loved that you get to I would that in the show she gets to be three different versions of herself. Like I loved that, sounded like such a fun challenge. And so it was pretty much immediate. I was like, yes, I am coming to audition and I want to get this so badly.
Could you walk us through your journey with Back to the Future from the audition process to Broadway?
Oh yeah, it was a long process. Honestly, my first audition was August 2022, and I did all the material. Let's see, I did it for our director and casting, I think. Yes. So I did all the material and they gave me a call back for the following day. So I went back and I did all the same material again the following day and they put it on tape for all the producers and everything. And then a little while later, maybe a few days later, I don't remember, they said, "We want to bring you in for final callbacks, but those aren't till November." So it was so strange. I hadn't experienced something like that before, where you're like in the intensity of the auditions, and then you have to kind of put it on hold for a few months and then dive back in. Really strange. So those few months were crazy because I knew I was obsessed with the role in the show and the music and I really wanted to do it, but I was like, I think I have to put it on pause or I'm gonna go crazy these next few months. And then around October, I started bringing it out again and started practicing and getting it back in my body. So in November, I went in for a music work session with our music team. And then the day after that was like my final callback. And that room was like everybody, the whole team, producers, they filmed it. It felt to me like it went really well. It felt like I did the best I could do. I felt really happy with how it went. And I was like, okay, now, it's out of my control. Um, and then it was Thanksgiving, so I remember that we were waiting. I was waiting for a long time to hear, and every day felt like a year.
Yeah.
Um, and then they actually let me know that John Rando, our director, wanted to do one last session with a few people after the big final callback. So they were like, "Can you come back in on a Saturday and do everything again, plus a couple new things for John?" And they're gonna tape it again. So that honestly felt like the hardest one because I felt like I had had this big, exciting final callback, and then I was like, oh no, I have to do it all over again. Like, will I be able to recreate it or, be as good? So that was a tough one, but I did it. And I walked away from that one feeling like, I don't know. I actually don't know what's going to happen. And then it was Thanksgiving, and then my agent called me right after Thanksgiving and said that I got it. And it was like the best day ever. I was so excited. I was so happy.
Yeah, that's a whirlwind of an audition
It
process.
really was, yeah. And then that was November, and we didn't start rehearsals till May. So I just kind of had this news, and I had several months to just kind of like exist and bide my time until it started.
Yeah, it's fun also when you kind of get to sit with it and go through the script. And then I feel like the more you go through a script, the more that you find like different things about the character. And I feel like that can really help you grow as an actor. But also sitting on is just like, I want to get started.
I know, I know. It was good to have that time though because our rehearsal process was so quick.
Yeah.
It was so fast. It was like 3 weeks in the studio, start to finish, and it's a huge show. So we all kind of came in ready. I had used that time to really work on the music and learn it and memorize and, go through the script and watch the film and then take a break from the film. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, what was that like for you? I'm so curious. I love asking actors who have done movie musicals. Did you find the movie to be helpful for you kind of getting a like form for Lorraine, or was it like I don't want to watch it, I want to, have my own Lorraine, or was it a little bit of both?
No, it was very helpful. I think with a movie like this, you can't ignore what has been done. It's so iconic. Like, I think we have to really know and understood what, I have to understand what Leah Thompson did and why it's so iconic and what people love about her. So I think I really wanted to truly like know that and understand it well. And then I had to take a break from it because I'm not like an impressionist. I had no interest in just doing an impression. That's a very different thing. So then I put the movie away for a while and just really tried to figure out how Lorraine fits on me. So it's challenging because you want to both honor what has been done and deliver for the fans who love these characters, but also like really find your own way in from the inside out. Um, the one thing I didn't do, my husband and I went to London before I started rehearsals, just to travel. And I was dying because Back to the Future obviously was on the West End. I wanted to go so badly. I was dying. I didn't know what the musical was. I only knew what the movie was, but I forced myself not to go to that because I was like, I actually don't. That's where I was like, there's already a film that I want to know and we have to honor. I don't want to also have like the musical version of this in my head. I want to go into rehearsals and create it, my version of it based on the film. So I
Right.
didn't see it and it was excruciating and I almost bought last minute tickets and went like a million times, but I forced myself. I was like, "No, I just want to have this moment to create her on my own without having
Yeah.
something in my head."
And Leah Thompson got to see you do the show. What was that like for you?
I mean, insane, like insane. It was our opening night when she was there, so everything was insane. There was almost so much to process. I couldn't even go there during the show, because if I thought about it, no, I'd be like, "Oh my God, what does she think? Am I like honoring Lorraine? Does she, is she satisfied? Am I doing her justice?" So kind of luckily, I guess, there was already so much to process opening night that I didn't really allow myself to go there. But of course, the second it was over, I was like, "Oh, what did she think? Did she like it?" But I got to meet her on stage after, and she was just like the best, wonderful, cool, complimentary. Just it was amazing. I was like,
Oh,
God.
if you could go back in time to a specific moment during the run of Back to the Future, which moment would it be and why?
Oh my God, opening probably. Oh man, maybe opening. Oh, I'm already nostalgic. I'm like, I'm sad it's
I
over.
miss it. I miss it so much.
I miss it. Yeah. I think I think oh yeah, I think probably opening just to like feel what that felt like again. Um because that was insane. We put the whole show up in 5 weeks total and you just get that first audience and the day is so overwhelming. There's so much going on an opening that you're just sort of like getting through, but I'd love to go back to specifically the show and do the show opening night with everybody with our original company and just feel what that felt like and the celebration after without all the stress this time because I know how it ends.
Yeah. Oh, I wish I had a time machine. I would go back to that show 1,000 times over. Honestly, it was truly one of the most magical things I've ever seen on a stage. It was incredible.
Oh, thanks.
Uh,
Yeah.
so what was your favorite and most challenging part about being part of that cast, and did you have a favorite scene and song from the show?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll start with the favorite. The my favorite changed all the time. It was so funny. I remember like it just depended on the night. Um, Depending on what mood I was in, sometimes I would love doing one scene versus another, but I really love the whole sequence of the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. I love that. I think it's so sweet. It's like kind of, it always felt like the moment the audience had been waiting for, where everything is in its right place again, when George and Lorraine come together and they kiss, and the audience was always so vocal during that, which was so much fun. And then into our sweet scene with Marty, where we say goodbye in the 1950s to Marty, and it's just this really special, quiet, heartwarming moment. So I loved that moment of the show. But then also, like, I loved something about that boy, that whole number. I love Pretty Baby, but something about that boy was so fun because my character wasn't on stage with the full company a lot in the show, and it was one moment where I got to be on stage with the full company. I love that song. I love singing that song. It's like chaos in the best way. Yeah, that was probably my favorite. Although sometimes I loved doing the first time you meet Lorraine, that scene in our home in the 1980s. Like that was so much fun because that was such a departure from young Lorraine. Like I got to be she's, she's in her late 40s. She drinks too much. She's, exhausted. She's in this kind of tragic but comedic family dynamic and that as an actor was really fun.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, for me as an actor too, sitting in the audience watching you go back from the '80s to the '50s and putting on the new
Yeah.
shoes and the new Lorraine, it was just so cool to see from an acting perspective.
Oh, that's cool. It was so much fun. I loved it. I remember when we were rehearsing, I was like, oh God, like I've spent all this time getting myself into a place of like, old Lorraine, and then I just have to like, be young Lorraine. But so at first it felt like, okay, what are things that'll help me like switch into that transition? Because it's kind of quick that it happens. But then it became like my favorite because I felt like I was playing different roles, so they're so different.
Oh, no, it was so special.
Yeah.
You also starred on Broadway as Katherine Plummer in Newsies. So looking back at that, what was the most rewarding part of being part of such a groundbreaking show?
Oh, everything. That show was a dream. I loved it so much. Obviously, I've already outed myself as a Disney movie musical super fan as a kid and currently. So it was a dream of mine always to be a Disney leading lady at some point. And when I saw the show for the first time, I was like, oh my God. It was again sort of like watching the movie and seeing Lorraine. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to play this role so badly. Um, just to get to sing Alan Menken's music, like that was a dream come true. I love, singing Disney music, and that felt like, oh my God, finally I'm singing a Alan Menken love ballad. I can't believe it. Oh gosh, it was so special. It just start to finish was so special. The message of the show was so special and inspiring and relevant, and I loved Catherine's character. She's, gutsy and she's not soft spoken or, super sweet or demure, if you will. She's like giving gutsy and spunky and has a fun, like combative rapport with Jack, which I loved. Um, gosh, that whole experience was just so amazing. I remember the first time I met Alan Menken after, I was like freaking out because I'm a huge fan and performing it like our company was so close and so many of the newsies were so young. We were just like a family unit and it was really special. I'm really, really grateful I got to do that.
Oh, it's such a special show. I love that show so much.
Oh,
So, alongside being a Broadway star, you've taken your star across the country in several national tours. What's it like bringing your performances to new places every single night?
oh my gosh, it's so wild. It's obviously it's we're doing the same thing as we're doing when we're performing here, but it's a whole different experience being on tour. Obviously I did the national tour of Mamma Mia. That was my first job ever. And then I did the national tour of Wicked and the national tour of Bright Star. So I have toured a bit and it's so wild. It's like, yeah, like depending on how long your stops are in each city, it could be, a one nighter. I've never done a one nighter, but we would have like split weeks where we do 3 days in one city and 4 days in the other. Or sometimes you'll have like a couple months. But traveling around with a show, yeah, it's challenging, but it's so like stimulating because every week, let's say you're doing 1 weekers and you're traveling every week, which is pretty common. Every week you're in a new theater and with a new community and crowd that responds completely differently, a new place geographically. So you land in a city and immediately you get your bearings, you set yourself up in your hotel or your Airbnb, and then the next day you're at a brand new theater sound checking. You have to sound check in every new theater because the sound is completely different in every theater. And you're familiarizing yourself with the backstage literally just enough to not get lost during the opening night of each city, which I did get lost many times. But they put up signs and I'm like, this way to the stage. you forget where you are sometimes because tour is just so fast paced, but it's insane. It's amazing. It's such an amazing gift to get to do because part of our job, if we're doing 8 shows a week, is to try to keep the shows fresh because it's the same show, 8 shows a week. But when you're on tour, there's so many different factors. It's a gift, every audience feels completely different, every theater, every town you're in, every city, the response. So it's challenging and it's really special. I'm so glad I've gotten to tour.
Touring is so much fun, especially when you get to bring shows to places that don't predominantly have theater. So I
Yeah.
think that's really special too when you get to kind of bring that magic to places
Yeah.
where you wouldn't really see theater.
Yeah, it's amazing. As someone from like a really small town that wasn't close to a lot of theater, it feels very special to be able to come to like smaller towns and cities with these Broadway caliber shows and share that with the communities.
Yeah, it's such a privilege. So I'm excited for this one as the Wicked fan that we all are. So you portrayed Nessa Rose in Wicked. What was it like bringing that character to life, and what standout moments do you remember from touring with this iconic show?
Oh my gosh, I know. I wanted to be in Wicked forever because when I was in high school, the Broadway show Wicked came out. It opened when I was, I think, a freshman in high school. Um, I don't know, when I was in high school. And so I fell in love with the cast recording. I saw the original cast. Like I was so obsessed, as we all were, all theater kids were, as so many people are now with the movie out. It was the same thing. Um, so I knew I always wanted to be in Wicked. I think I even had a Wicked poster in my freshman dorm.
I love
It's embarrassing, but no shame. I was
that.
obsessed.
Manifesting.
Yeah. And I knew I wanted to be Nessa. I was like, at the time, I was like, I'm not really an Elphaba. Maybe someday I want to play Glinda, but right now I feel like I'm a Nessa. So I was obsessed and I auditioned for it for years, actually. And I got really close to being in it many times, but it didn't work out. And then in 2015, stars aligned, and it was the right time. I was so excited. You feel when you're performing Wicked, you do feel like that you're a part of something really iconic, and that's it's an honor to be a part of it. It's pressure, it's exciting. So I felt all of that. I loved the character of Nessa. I thought it was so much fun because she gets to essentially be the villain. And I never like got to play the villain, so I was thrilled to play a character who had a dark side. um, but I also really felt for her, and so yeah, I had a great time. I also met two of my best friends to this day on the Wicked tour, Carrie St. Louis and Emily Cook, who are in Alphaba and Glinda. And I just went to Carrie St. Louis's wedding this week. So three of us were together there. And it was like, oh, yeah, it was meant to be that I did it when I did it because they're in my life now. And yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing touring with a show like Wicked because it has such an impact on anywhere it goes. And so it was really cool to be a part of that.
Yeah, I think Wicked changes everybody for good, no matter what role you play. It's so
Yeah.
special. Oh, so you also stepped into the role of Margot in Bright Star. What were your favorite aspects about portraying her?
Oh my gosh, that was dreamy. My only uh sadness about that is that it I wish it had a longer life. It's such a beautiful show. It had a short life on Broadway and then a kind of a short life on tour. And I came into the second cast on tour. So I think I got to do it just for a few months until it closed. But it was such a dream. I love Margot. It just felt dreamy. I think she has the best song in the show,
I
Asheville.
agree. I agree.
Ah, and Josh Rhodes staging, like, oh my God, that number just took my breath away. And I had never seen the show. I didn't get to see it on Broadway. So when I auditioned, I was just searching for any kind of footage I could find online or to get an idea of what it was. Um, but then when I saw it for the first time on tour, I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm doing. And Carmen Cusack, was in it. And I was just blown away. I thought it was such a beautiful piece. And I loved Margot's little arc. I just think it's precious and heartwarming, and I love Asheville, and yeah, I just was felt so lucky that I got to do that for a few months. It was such a gift, and I again met two of my best friends to this day, Henry Gottfried and Mary Page Nance. So it was like, yeah, it again felt really meant to be, and I loved playing that role.
Oh, it's such an incredible show. I need a revival
I
so bad.
know, I know.
So
It
bad.
didn't get the life it deserved. It was a really competitive season. It was
Yeah.
wild. I think it was the year Hamilton came out. So I think, but yeah, it needs a longer life. And I hope people are doing it regionally. I think they are, but it's so
Yeah,
good.
they are. Yeah. Yeah, I'm also just a sucker for a good revival.
Same, let's go. I'm like, it's
Oh,
time. All the
so
shows like I grew up with and were obsessed with, it's time. I'm like, let's get the
oh,
revivals
oh,
going.
yes. So out of all the roles you've stepped into, are there a few that particularly stand out to you for specific reasons?
I'm, I mean, maybe this is cheesy, but they all do. I love them all so much. They're like, they're like parts of me. So I love them all, these ladies, so much. Yeah, I love them all for different reasons. Like, I feel lucky that I've been able to play essentially like ingenues with guts and some and who get to be a little funny and are gutsy, and like Sophie was totally gutsy and kind of all over the place in a really lovely way. I loved that. She's kind of messy and impulsive, and that was really fun and passionate. And then, yeah, as I said, Katherine is incredible, incredibly brave and spunky and funny. Lorraine gets to be so funny and driven and oh yeah. So I mean those three ladies I think have like the biggest part of my heart. Maybe just because I did them for the longest, but yeah, love them all.
Ah, special, special ladies. Is there a particular project or moment that you feel truly defined you as an artist?
Oh my gosh. Good question. Oh wow. I'm not sure. A project or a moment that defined me. Oh my gosh. Oh man, probably many like inspiration wise along the way. Probably many. Um, like for I mean, I will never forget. I don't know if this defined me as an artist, but moments that like really kind of shaped what I like and what I look up to and what I want to do. Um, like Kristen Chenoweth, obviously, and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. Oh my God, seeing Sutton Foster in The Drowsy Chaperone. Oh my gosh. What was I just gonna say? There was Laura Benanti, saw her in incredible things. I just looked up to these women so much. Carrie Butler and Xanadu. I just was like, that's what I want to do. These like interesting women who get to be funny and they're charismatic and they're playing these incredible roles and they have these incredible voices that, I was like, that's what I want to do someday.
That's awesome. So, looking back on everything you've achieved in this industry, what advice would you give your younger self entering the industry?
Oh wow. Oh man. I would I would have a few things to say to her, I think. um I think, in this industry in general, it often feels like as performers, we're just chameleons trying to be whatever whoever we're auditioning for wants us to be that day. So it can feel a little like, oh, what do I need to be today? What are they looking for? What do they want me to be? And I think as I've gotten older, I've realized the biggest gift is really learning who you are and what you bring as an individual. Um, I think that's what they're looking for. They're looking for everyone's individuality and they're waiting to be inspired to know what they want. So if I could go back, I would tell myself like worry less about being perfect, first of all, and being exactly what everyone wants you to be all the time, and just start diving in now to figuring out exactly who you are and what makes you you and what makes you funny and what makes your voice interesting, and lean into those things and celebrate them. And don't try to be a chameleon in a perfect mold because it makes you less interesting and it makes you miserable. Instead, just like, let yourself thrive. I would, yeah, I'd go back and say that. And I'm still learning that every day. It's really hard because we always want to get the job, so we're trying to fit into molds. But I really think it's important to just like figure out who you are and lead with that and celebrate it. And people are drawn to that.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that so, so much. I relate to that because I always tell myself, be yourself because everyone else is already taken.
Yeah.
And I
Uh-huh.
just think it's so special because sometimes when you're auditioning to play different characters, you get lost in
Yeah.
yourself because you're trying to be them. But when you get to bring yourself into a character, that's what makes it special. And that's what people are looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Because no one else can do your version of any character. So the more you really dive into and figure out what your version is and what makes it fun and your version of funny and specific and unique, the more exciting it'll be to watch.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, Leanna, for joining me on the Inspiration Show. You are truly one of my biggest inspirations and have impacted my life and my theater journey in such a special way. I am so grateful for all you do. It's such an honor to have you in my life and to get to watch you shine. Thank you for inspiring me.
Thank you so much. That makes my heart soar. Thank you. As we're talking about like all these women who inspired me, it's so sweet and like impactful to hear you say that I've inspired you. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me.
You're the best. Thank you.